late 1960s, I ended up going to Hazelwood High School. And I was into playing tennis at the time in terms of athletics. I was a tennis player, played on a high school tennis team. I was a really good student. We called straight A student. So I was, really good that way.
Or was it straight E's back then?
Well, I almost said that, but I thought, well, yeah, it was E, S, C. I can't remember the grading scale, but in E was an A. So it was straight E's, we used to say. So I was a straight A student, good student, playing varsity tennis, working with Charlie, an ABC window cleaning company. We're washing windows and making some money, having a lot of fun, at that stage of life. I'm a good kid though. I mean, I'm not into anything. I'm not doing any drinking or anything like that. I'm just a good kid, a loyal kid. And I was playing tennis. I really gotten into tennis as a young person. I was good enough to make the tennis team in high school. So come along 11th grade. This would be the spring of 1970, right at the end of my junior year. I had a girlfriend early in the year. Really, it was the Bethel girl, Judy Bethel. She was like from the Our Gang thing or the Little Rascals. She was Darla, right? And so that's Charlie's sister. I'm working for her dad. I'm in their house all the time. And man, I just had a thing for Judy. I really liked her. She knew it, but she had another boyfriend, all this drama. I was like, but I really liked her, but I never landed her as a girlfriend officially. And it's a good thing I didn't. So here's another side lesson. You don't want to really get what you think you want in life. Even what you pray for. Sometimes God's not giving you what you think you want, because I didn't need Judy to be in my life. I needed Vicki in my life. And that's what happened in Mrs. Sherman's English class, 11th grade. Right at the end of the year, I'd had another girlfriend I was with a little bit, and she kind of broke it off. Her name was Marilyn. So I'm kind of burned on girls. I'm saying, I don't want any more girl thing. Maybe I should be a bachelor. And I'm like 16 years old. But anyway, but all of a sudden one day in English class, right at the end of the year, we're not doing too much, just kind of hanging out in classes. And I'm sitting on this heater register thing in the classroom. And this kind of cute girl comes up and just kind of pops up, sits up next to me on the register. And we kind of just start talking a little bit. I'd noticed and seen her before in class. And her name was Vicki. And so, we start talking one thing to another. And then we're, and I'm thinking, this is interesting. And so we had a little bit more of school, and I guess, I don't remember exactly, we were probably talking from time to time, never went on a date or anything, but I begin to think, this girl's kind of interesting, But she's telling me, I'm about to go to Blue Earth, Minnesota for the summer, because I'm interested in nursing. And in our family, there's a cousin who works in a hospital, and I'm going to go to the hospital there all summer and do an internship. So I'm thinking, okay, enough of this. She's going to be gone all summer long. It's like, I can't think that far down ahead. It's like, this girl's gone. It's like, forget about it. So school ends, she's gone. Well, guess what? I got a letter here that's postmarked June 11th, 1970. So we got out of school by June 5th or 6th or something. We went into June. So this is like less than a week after school ends. And I get a letter in the mail from Blue Earth, Minnesota, the postmark, and it says, guess who? And it's addressed to Sam Ingrassia, 740 Tesson Road, Hazelwood, Missouri. And I'm thinking, Blue Earth, wait a minute, that's that girl, that's that Vicki girl. So anyway, I've had that letter for, 54 years, finally framed it, and that's a letter. I'm not going to read it to you. Basically, Vicki writes me and she starts out, I'm up here nursing student, blah, 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 blah. Page 1. page 2. But the reason I'm writing you is I want to say, I really like you. And I'm like, I can remember opening this letter. I'm laying on the front lawn at Tesson Road, literally laying on the road. I'm say, open the letter. I'm reading this letter. I really like you. And I can remember thinking, oh, like, what? And so that led to some letter writing back and forth for the rest of the summer. And then when she came back at the end of the summer, we started dating. And so we dated through our senior year. And Vicki was involved in choir in high school. I was still playing tennis. We're dating along and just doing all the things in terms of different dances and, participating in different activities relative to high school. And so anyway, we graduate high school and we really like each other and enjoying it. But I'm plans to go to University of Missouri at Rolla. And so a little bit of the backstory on that is, when you're in high school, it's like you're approaching that big decision time. Here you're 16, 17 years old, you're trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. It don't even seem fair to ask what kind of a career path are you interested in, because a lot of people that start down one path don't end up on that, like me. So I'm in ministry, Christian ministry. I never would have dreamed that. I started an engineering study path. Well, what happened is I was good at math, enjoyed math. Brody, you say you like math, so who knows what you're doing today with it. But my Uncle Jack, that's Mima's brother, her only sibling, he lived in DuQuoin all his life. He was a civil engineer, and he worked for the state of Illinois and is in an engineering capacity. And he had studied at University of Missouri, which was called Rolla School of Mines. Mines like mining, and Rolla was the name of the town, R-O-L-L-A, Rolla. And he was a successful guy. I really respected Uncle Jack, a good guy, smart guy, good math, all this stuff. And I'm thinking, man, maybe I want to be like Uncle Jack, I want to be an engineer. And so then on top of that, guess what? Tommy Gibaltera, the guy I told you who did the research on this genealogy stuff, guess what? He was my dad's first cousin, one of them. He also went to University of Missouri, Rolla. And he had studied mechanical engineering. And I looked up to him too. So here's these two guys in my family. Tommy, second cousin, Uncle Jack, both went to the same school. They're making decent living, good careers. I'm good at math. I think I could carry on this engineering legacy in our family. In the Ingrassia family, in the Ingrassias to that date, no one had been to college. And I'm the firstborn, right? So, man, I'm going to go to university. I'm a good student. Man, everybody's against it. Once again, I'm the kind of the centerpiece. I'm doing everything first as firstborn. And so I'm going to go to university and study engineering. I think, man, I'm going to go to University of Missouri, Rolla. And that's exactly what I did. I graduated from there in 1975. But it is a school of renown for engineering. So when I went there, I pledged the Kappa Alpha fraternity. So when you go to school back in the day, you could live in the dorms, what we call, to be a dormie. That's what they called them. People live in the dorms. Unaffiliated, really, other than living in a high-rise apartment with some people and going to college. Well, my uncle and my cousin, Tommy, they were both fraternity guys, and they just, it was like to be in a fraternity as a group of guys who live together, know one another, journey college together. So there's more affiliation and all this stuff, connection, and it sounded like a way better route for me. So I don't remember how I first heard of KA, to tell you the truth, but I end up pledging, which means you're applying to get into the fraternity. So the first semester, you're a pledge, which means you want to be a member of the fraternity, but you got to earn it. And so back in the day, they used to put you through hell to make you earn it, you know.
Was it like Animal House back then?
It was kind of like that. It was hazing, it was called, you know. So, I mean, they hassle you. They treat you bad. They do things bad to you physically. They do the bad things to you emotionally. They try to break you. And it's really like boot camp. It's like a Marine boot camp. You got to want it. You got to earn it as a class. So it's not just you as an individual. The pledge class, got a picture of those guys around here too, right? So I pledged KA with about 30 guys, and I did make it. By the way, later I became the vice president of the fraternity. One time I was a junior. That's another story. So I go off to engineering school, which is 100 miles from St. Louis. I don't have a car. Vicki stays in St. Louis to go to St. Luke's School of Nursing. And so she's going to take a 2-year nursing program. It really wasn't a college degree, it's a nursing certificate. And so we then moved into those phases of life, but we were really committed to one another. We dated that whole time. I traveled between Rolla and St. Louis almost every weekend for 4 years. I mean, I just did not want to stay.
How did you do that without a car?
My fraternity brothers, you could always get a ride to St. Louis.
Because a bunch of them were from St. Louis.
People from St. Louis, even other people at the school. You could get a ride. And it was funny. I remember my buddy, Dennis Woodruff, Dennis Seibel, both those guys had cars. Chuck Hansford had a car. So some of my fraternity brothers had cars. So they make a, run to St. Louis for the weekend. Somebody was always going. So for $2, I get Seibel $2 each way. So $4 I could go to St. Louis, and my gig, I wanted to see Vicki. So then we'd date on the weekend and hang out and do whatever, and see family and whatever it was. But the deal was to make sure I was seeing her. And I'm telling you, still to today, Highway 44 between Rolla and St. Louis, I about can drive it blindfolded. I'm telling you, every nook and cranny and curve. One time I tried to figure out how many miles I might have driven or rode over my college career between St. Louis, and it was a lot of miles. All is to say, I was connected in my heart and mind to this girl, and I said, I'm gonna get this figured out. So I loved her and was committed to her, and her the same. So she was in nursing school, and I was in engineering school. At the very end, then, immediately at the end of my schooling, 4-year program, she'd already finished and was nursing in St. Louis. And we got married on May 31st, 1975. Yeah, May 31st, 19. And there's a couple of fun pictures. Wayne Carson is the guy who officiated our ceremony. He was important in our lives. I'll tell you this story in another segment, but Wayne Carson was leading the Bible study on a Tuesday night. It was the night Vicki understood the gospel and came to Christ. The verse was, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through me. And that just hit her like a rocket.
John 14:6.
John 14:6, thank you. And Vicki put her faith in Christ, and Wayne was leading that Bible study. And Wayne also later started a little church called Clayton Community Church. And Vicki and I, pretty new Christians, we were going to that church as young people with a lot of other people in the St. Louis area. That's kind of a whole generation and story. So yeah, here she is, my bride. Kiss the bride. Here you go. That's Grandma Jackie, okay, Mom's mom. And this is her dad, Edward Krotzer. Now that was, so that's your great grandpa. And you know what? You just don't hear much about him at all. Lila, you met Grandma Jackie when you were just a baby. She was still alive before she passed away. But Vicky's dad had emphysema. Even in this picture, you can tell he's very thin and very frail. He had a hard time breathing. He had a lung disease called emphysema. And a couple of times I remember him going in the hospital. And then after Vicki and I were married, we went to Florida Bible College to study. And by that next, let's see, within, when was that? I don't remember what time of year he died, but we were down there less than a year that we got the call that he was really failing and that he passed away. And so that was like 1976. So gosh, he's gone 50 years or something, you know. And this is just, again, an example. If I don't tell you or show you his picture or tell you just a little bit about Vicky's dad, that he had emphysema, you would never even know it because nobody says it. So I'm trying to do honor to everyone as well with these videos to help you remember who some of these people were, because his blood is running in your veins, you know. He was a really good guy. I really liked him. He liked me from the beginning. I mean, I was a good kid. I was a good student, all that stuff. I loved his daughter. He was all in for me. And I enjoyed him. But he passed away young, you know. We tried to figure out how old he was. Now, see, I can't remember that off the top of my head either, but he wasn't about 50 maybe, 48, something like that, when he passed away. So that was just sad, you know. Anyway, here's, this is Vicky's sister Trudy. Again, here's someone you don't hear a lot about. Your mom, Gigi, has an older sister. She's older by 2 years, I think, or a year and a half. And we don't have a lot of relationship with her. She lives in St. Louis. They've just never been close as sisters. It's kind of a sad story, really. Vicky's done a lot in that relationship, I believe, over the years to try to have made it, at least many years ago. And it just never clicked. What can I say? I hope you're close as siblings. I've had the blessing. My siblings all pretty close to one another. A lot of people with their brothers and sisters are not close. You got to work on it. You got to work on relationships. And then this girl here was Debbie Denny. She's the one who was also a nursing student with Vicki at St. Luke's. And Debbie knew the Lord as her Savior, and she was inviting Vicki to come to a Bible study many times. And I'm going to tell you the story about that, what exactly happened. But the night, finally, Vicki said, I'll come to the Bible study with you. If you'll get off my back, I'll come one time, you know, kind of thing. And that was the night Vicki's life was changed. I'll tell you that in a little bit more. And this is my sister, Candy, who's actually coming down here next week to visit. All three of my sisters, Mary Kay, Julie, and Candy, all coming down, and Cece and Max. So we're going to have a grand visit next week. But that's Candy at the time. So these were the, you know, bridesmaids, and me and Vicki, and so there you have it. Let's see. That was our wedding party. Ta-da! And then here's my mom and dad. So affectionately known as Peepaw, Angelo Ingrassia, Meemaw, Mary Ingrassia. And again, best I could tell, he's like, I think my dad's maybe like 48 in this picture. Would that be right? Wait a minute.
Okay.
No, wait. My mom.
She was born in 33.
She's 20. She's like 20 years older than me, my mom. And he was 2 years. So if I got married at 21, she's 41, he's 43. So that's a better, yeah. My dad's like 43 in this picture.
He's just a few years older than me.
Yeah. And my mom's like 41 in that picture. My daughter Tina's 45 at this recording time.
So Tina's older than Meemaw and Peepaw in that photo.
Yes. By the way, some people say that the speed of time is like the roll of a toilet paper. The longer it goes, the faster it rolls. Word to the wise. Here's my groomsmen. Here you go. Here's me. Look at that hair. She had a mustache. You didn't know this. Sampo had a mustache for like 30 years. And that's Tony. Excuse me. He kind of looks like a dork there, Uncle Tony. And these two guys back here are two of Vicky's brothers. So that's Richard and that's Randy. She has another brother named Rob. Now, you guys might remember Lila. You remember cousin Rob or Uncle Rob? And his daughter, Gabriella. So they came down here for Nicole's wedding, and Lila was old enough to dance with Gabriella and all that stuff. So you'll remember, Lila, at least, that Vicki has a third brother, Rob. So Rich, I don't know that you've ever met him. Tell you the truth, I can't think he'd been down here many, many years ago. Randy's never been down here. And once again, you don't hear much about Randy because he lives in Chicago, and that's just a distant relationship. Randy's had a lot of health problems, been very sad, and Rich stays in good contact tries to stay in relationship and contact with him. This is Chuck Hansford. This is Gary Kohlmeyer. Both these guys were two of my really good friends at University of Missouri at KA, Kappa Alpha House. I had the privilege of leading Chuck and Gary Kohlmeyer both to the Lord. They came to faith through a little Bible study I had at the fraternity house, and I still can stay in contact with both those guys. Chuck came down, 6-8 months ago for a visit even, so really good friends. And this was Wayne and Carolyn Carson. Like I said, they led the Bible study that Vicki came to Christ. They led Clayton Community Church. Tony went there. All of us were going to that little church at the very beginning. That's where we went as brand new Christians. Cutting the cake, and that's one of my favorite pictures. And TJ, we looked at a snapshot of me standing by a little evergreen in the yard. That evergreen of this picture, where we shot this in the front yard, and I'm just kind of passionately, romantically looking at Vicki here, and we're married 49 years this past May, and honestly nothing's changed in terms of my deep love for her, love of my life. And there's the bouquet that she had. So that's May 31st, 1975 when we got married. So man, a life journey. Here's a picture of Vicki recently, a few months ago. I won't be able to get her on this video. She just won't cooperate, so I don't know, you have to go by pictures. And then you guys might remember then last year on her 70th birthday, we had a surprise birthday party for Vicki at Maggiano's. She thought it was just going to be the family there, but when she got there, we had, about 25, 30 real close friends also there in the room. And we just gave a little tribute to Vicki for her 70th birthday at Maggiano's. Maggiano's kind of a place for us. Stephanie's wedding was at Maggiano's. Brian and Stephanie took us to Maggiano's when they told us what Lila's name would be, Lila Michelle Svianovich. When Tina graduated high school, I think it was, Harold, Grandma Jackie, and Harold were down here, and we went there for a dinner. And then this party was at Maggiano's. So we've had quite a Maggiano's history. By the way, Harold, just so you know, who's that? Vicki's dad was Edward Krotzer. He passed away, as I told you. Fix that
later.
Number of years later, Grandma Jackie, Gigi's mom, married a guy named Harold Smith. And they knew one another from work. His wife had passed away. They both lost their spouses, and they got married. And they were married quite a long time. Maybe 15-something more years. Harold passed of a heart attack, and then a few days later, Jackie's health declined, and she passed away as well. So anyway, yeah, that's how Vicki and I met. That's how we got married, and that's what brought us up here to the end of this segment, I think.
Okay, so it was between your junior and that summer when she went to Minnesota.
Junior and senior year of high school.
It was in between that summer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you sort of got acquainted with her junior year. Letters are in between, and then senior year.
Senior year, we start dating.
And that's 1970?
That's still 1970. Senior year, then the spring becomes 71, we graduate. She came back from Blue Earth. Our first date was the Babbler State Park outside of St. Louis. And we went there with Charlie and a bunch of my buddies and stuff. And we'd go out to Babbler and picnic and stuff like that. And invited Vicki to come along. And I can remember walking along, and I don't know how it happened, if I did it or she did it, but we held hands. We took hands. We were just walking through the park, and we took hands for the first time. Yeah.
And what year was Julie born?
Oh, jeez.
It was right around there, right?
Yeah,
because essentially
yes,
Julie's
correct.
been like the third sister.
That's right. For
sister.
Julie, Vicki's been around her whole life. The first time Vicki saw Julie, Julie was in a bassinet in the living room. Vicki came over to the house, and so that would have been, we were dating in the fall of 70. So right in there, I don't know if Julie's born in 70 or 71, something like right in there. Yeah. And so for Julie, Vicki's been her whole life. She's known life like another sister, and Julie's coming down next week, which is fun.
And so when you guys were dating, Vicki was at your house a lot, right?
Oh,
it was
yeah.
more about she becoming a part of your family.
Yeah. She was absorbed into the Ingrassia family, and just saying, her family had some troubles. Her dad was sick. He was chronically ill, sitting in the living room on oxygen. He would cough from that emphysema. It was terrible. He couldn't work. Her mom was working. I mean, this is part of me telling her story, but just to say, because her mom went to work, she had 5 kids. Her husband's an invalid. Think of the pressure of that. I gave a tribute to all this at Jackie's funeral. When I did her Grandma Jackie's funeral, I told all this story. And so she went to work full-time to provide for her family, single income. They lived in a tiny house in Spanish Lake, Missouri, 1157 Scott Avenue. Little tiny house. Way smaller than this Crescent Oak house. And 740 Tesson, where I was raised, was a little house. Years later, Vicki and I went back there to see that house again. And they were just, somebody was moving out. Somebody was like remodeling it. We were able to go in that house and see it. They had gutted it, and they were cutting down one of those trees that were in the front yard. And we watched one of those trees, peepaw planted 50 years ago or something, and they were cutting it down because it was just enormous. And we arrived and saw that tree fall. We walked around that house, and that whole basement that people had all fit, it was all gutted back to nothing. It was just concrete. They redid that whole house. And what struck me about that house is how tiny it was. It's funny when you get older, when you're a kid, you think, oh, everything's so big. It was very small. And the house Vicki was raised in was very small. So the 3 brothers, Trudy, and so 5 kids in the house. Grandma Jackie's working. Her husband's getting increasingly sick. A lot of work fell on Vicki because of that. She really became like the mom. So she used to make dinner, do laundry, try to take care of the brothers. And it's kind of a pained story that she tells of sort of her young teens was sort of robbed from her in a way. And she didn't always feel appreciated for all that sacrifice and work that was expected of her. So it's kind of a difficult time and a gap in her heart. I often like to say I came along and rescued her from the other side of the tracks. So in some ways it was a little bit true.
And so it's sort of an escape for her coming to your house. And
she would tell you,
cooking.
She's in the other room and she would come and tell you, she would say, when I would go to the Ingrassia, it's like, she'd come down to Grandma's house for one of those parties or something, and she'd said, I see this family. They're laughing, playing games and eating and desserts, and the grandma and everybody's there. And she was like, what is this? She didn't know anything like that. So she, of course, emotionally just absorbs into all of everybody. I loved her, everybody loved her, and she just folded in. She became an Ingrassia, right? And all over the years, we were always a little more closer to my family than her family, I would say. Her family had fragmentation in it. I think the dad being an invalid and chronically sick contributed to all that. So his kids were being raised in a difficult weather, different atmosphere. The mom is tense, the dad is sick. That's rough living. And I think that contributed to the fragmentation of the family. Vicki would say Trudy retreated and Randy was off and Rob was the clown, and it was sad. So when Vicki thought, she would tell you, I thought, I got to get out of here. And she decided, I'm going to be a nurse. Come hell or high water, she had it in her to serve and help people. And she goes, I'm going to nursing school. And she did. And that's when she went to St. Luke's School of Nursing, got a scholarship, I think, of some level, and was dating me, and she loved our family. And
did she ever actually do any professional nursing?
yeah, because she took a 2-year program. So she was a nurse for 2 years before I ever got out of college. And by the way, part of that time when she was working full-time as a nurse, she didn't go back live at home. She used to live with Paul and Barb Bennett. Do you remember that name at all? Paul and Barb Bennett were running a youth ministry in North County that your brother Tony was a part of. And she actually lived with them, like rented a room from them. And then later on, her and Denny, the Debbie who had invited her to the Bible study, they had an apartment together. And they were in that apartment near the time closer to when we got married.
Mariah, was that the Bible study?
No,
there was something called Mariah.
Mariah was Dave Vaughn did a Bible study named Mariah. That was another guy. What was Paul and Barb Bennett's ministry? I can't remember the name of it. Tony was a big part of that. He was close to those folks.
Vicki's a strong personality.
Yeah.
Peepaw's a strong personality. How did they get along?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Like I was saying before, Peepaw, my dad could be a little tough, a little rough. And there were times when these family dramas would be going on, or one thing or another, my dad would be off the rails. And everybody was like terrified, because we were raised with this, But Vicki came into it, and she wasn't scared of him. So there were many times where she would talk to him, or she would confront him, or she'd go, I'll go talk to him. And, we're all cowering over here at Tony's house, and Vicki goes down to talk to people. It's like, and she would say, it'd be interesting to hear what she would say, but I think she'd say her relationship with him was difficult. It was pain. Like sometimes she thought he didn't like her. And he didn't like her because she was taking Sam away. She took Sam away to this faith, this Christian thing, away from the Catholic Church. She was taking Sam away, that she was somehow a threat. But and there might be some truth in that at some point. She felt that. But in some ways, she was kind of looking for a father. Her dad, it wasn't a good relationship. She could say, I'd never remember sitting on his lap. I never remember him saying anything interested to me or kind or loving or endearing. There wasn't a nurture there at all, father-daughter, so she had a gap. So she was trying to find it with my dad, but that was a little bit of a hard find. But he loved her. And then once we were married and then the kids and all that, he respected her. But she had a lot of positions, like, medical positions he didn't understand or agree with, or about the herbs and naturopath and holistic medicine and all that. He was like, what is she doing with my grandkids, confusing. So the relationship was interesting. It certainly wasn't all bad. It wasn't all great either, but people's relationship with a lot of people was, had the light side and the dark side to it.
And then with your siblings, and like Julie especially, Vicki was like another one of the siblings at some level.
Oh,
like
yeah.
She just got absorbed into the family.
Absolutely. She just absorbed part of the family. And then once we had our kids, and even though we were living away, principally when we were raising them in New Jersey, we would come back to St. Louis, in the summer and then Christmas. And we would make the trips back at least a couple times a year. Like that was far. And it was kind of funny. We always wondered how we accomplished it, but our girls had an affinity for all you guys. They loved and knew their St. Louis family, but they didn't live near them. But somehow they felt connected to them.
Yeah, in some ways, I felt closer to your girls than some of my cousins who lived in St. Louis.
They lived in town. It's like, I don't know, maybe because when we came town, it was special, you know, and it was just a special pixie dust on it all.
And you'd stay at our house for a week or whatever, and we'd hang out.
Yeah, right. We'd spending the night hanging out, playing games, all this bonding's going on. So you build relationships, spending time, having fun, and it's bonding. And because then it'd be like you guys in St. Louis, it's like, well, we don't do this all the time. It isn't like we're having a party all the time and you're missing it.
Yeah, it was like vacation whenever you guys would come.
We come in as a vacation spot, go to Six Flags, play games, water slide, water fight, you know, it's all the different stuff. Tons of great memories. But Vicki was just folded into all that, man. And so I just look back, I remember sitting next to me on the radiator. I remember the first time I held her hand, the first time I kissed her. I mean, I've just folded into her till today. We're just one. It's never been Sam or Vicki. It's always Sam and Vicki. I mean, our ministry was like that all the time. She came on mission trips for years. When we came to do all this missions work, we never dreamed how involved she would get. She took her own teams in Moldova, her own teams in Romania. If you want me, countless times traveling, leading prayer, intercession groups, and evangelism. She co-owned it. We never dreamed it was going to be like that. It just was part of who she is. And now at this stage of life, we're just in a different place. So I could just say at this recording, it's August 22nd, 2024. Vicki has been sick with myelofibrosis for 2 years, diagnosed, longer than that from what we don't know, which is a blood disease. She has a problem with her bone marrow. Her bone marrow doesn't make her blood in the right counts. So she's on drugs to help balance her bone marrow, her bone marrow and blood counts. Her blood counts are abnormal, white count, red count, platelets, hemoglobin. It's all abnormal, but at this time, it's sort of steady abnormal, but she has a lot of fatigue because if your blood is kind of sick, you're kind of sick. So she has a lot of fatigue. And so as you get older, life closes in on you. It's like you could go here, here, here. Now and she's rather confined. She doesn't do what she used to. Even with you kids, how much she did with the first 10 years of Lila's and Brody's life and Cedar. Countless parties, activities, all these things have happened. Countless things have happened. She was in the middle of all that. Her gift of hospitality, all that's just wound down. So it's been sad and been hard to watch her decline, really, and just asking God for, you know, her days and all her days, our lives in God's hand. A time to be born, a time to die. And that's part of it. And a lot of the people, all these people I'm talking about, think about that. You know, I mean, what I should hear on this genealogy chart, see, all these people, they're all gone. They're gone. So a part of what life is preparing for the real life, which we believe is eternal life through Jesus. That Jesus died on the cross for our sins, was buried, and rose again. That's the gospel. He wants to bring us into his family and kingdom forever. And because this is real. Nobody escapes it. Nobody, yeah. Remember in What About Bob? You sent me the clip, the movie What About Bob? When he says, the kid says, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. There's no getting out of it. You know, and Bob's over there, ooh, thinking about death.
What else is there to be afraid of?
What else is there?
Except Tourette's syndrome.
So anyway, yeah, that's where she is today. She's right over here in the other, outside of the camera shot, but we love her, and she's the engine of the family, but she's in a little difficult place this season, and we're just praying for God's grace and healing in his will, but energy to keep doing what she wants to do, which is really all about you kids mostly. It's mostly what she's living for. To be in and with and around you kids, provide care as we can, We did tons of child care, as you might remember when you all were little. Lila most lived at our house in the early days when her parents were training, getting their jobs, and she had her own bedroom and everything, you know, and then Brody too, and Cedar coming along. And so they've been like the hub for us as grandparents, and especially for Gigi, to really provide love and care for them as a grandma. That's what she wants to do. It's really her main thing. Has been for probably the last 10 years. It's been a great investment. No regrets, wouldn't trade it. At this recording, we live at Crescent Oak Street in Wiley. We're 3 minutes from Brian and Stephanie's house, Lila and Brody. We're 90 seconds, we always joke and say, from Josh and Nicole and Cedar's house. What a blessing. And Tina lives, you know, moved to Denton recently. She's about 40 minutes from here, but our family's all nearby and close, and it's a blessing. It ain't perfect. What family's perfect, you know? Everybody's got weather and atmosphere and ebbs and flows, and the film runs, the movies, different genres. But I always use the phrase with my daughters, I'm in your corner. You ask them that, they would say, I'm in your corner. That's like in a boxing match. You go back to your corner to rest and get refreshed in between rounds. Somebody's there to help you refresh a little bit in the corner. Person who's in your corner means they're there for you, they believe in you, they want to help you and help you go out and face the fight. And so that's what we've tried to be for our girls and for our grandkids, be in their corner. And yeah, I wouldn't trade it. So that's Vicki, man. The cornerstone, the gem of my life and love, and it's a hard season right now with her seeing her decline, but we know that God holds the future. We trust in Him step by step.